Welcome to another deep dive.
Always exciting.
This time, we're going to explore the fascinating world of the humanities.
Oh, I love this.
We've got lectures from Oxford academics, personal stories from graduates, and even, get this, opinions from the business world.
Sounds like quite the mix.
Ready to discover why Albert Einstein thought humanities scholars were more important than scientists who discover objective truth.
Okay, I'm hooked.
Let's dive in.
All right, let's go.
So when we talk about the humanities, what exactly are we talking about?
Right, because it's not always super clear, is it?
Yeah, exactly. It feels like this big umbrella term, right?
Totally. We often see the humanities as these separate subjects, literature, history, philosophy.
Right. Compartmentalized.
But going through all our sources, it's clear how interconnected these fields really are. They all grapple with these same fundamental questions about the human condition.
So it's less like separate rooms in a house and more like different lenses looking at the same complex picture.
Exactly. And that picture is this messy, beautiful, often chaotic experience of being human.
We all know that picture pretty well.
Don't we?
Yeah.
Professor G, from one of the lectures on our stack, puts it this way. The humanities reveal how people have tried to make moral, spiritual, and intellectual sense of a world where things like irrationality and despair exist right alongside friendship and reason.
Yeah. Like, how do we make sense of that?
Right.
That tension between the good and the bad, the logical and the emotional, it's something we all deal with.
Absolutely. And the humanities, they provide us with frameworks for navigating these complexities. They help us understand ourselves and the world around us, in a deeper, more nuanced way.
Okay, but I can already hear some people listening thinking, okay, that's great for like personal growth and all, but what about the real world? Like, will it get me a job?
Oh, the dreaded, is it practical
Well,
question.
right. But this Oxford University report actually challenges the perception that humanities degrees don't lead to good jobs.
Yeah, I was really surprised by this one, actually.
What was it that surprised you?
Well, the report shows that not only are humanities graduates successful in the job market,
They're killing it.
pretty much, they often outperform their peers from other fields. And the report dives into why this is the case. It's actually not about specific knowledge. It's about the skills they develop.
Oh, interesting. So, like, what kind of skills are we talking about?
Things like communication, critical thinking, research, resilience, even the ability to give and receive constructive criticism.
That's a big one.
It is. And these are valuable in any field, really, whether you're a CEO or a creative entrepreneur.
Right. So it's less about the what you learned and more the how you learned it.
Exactly.
I love the story about Alabama in the report, the humanities grad who, at first, felt lost trying to enter the corporate world.
Oh, yeah, I remember her.
But after taking the skills-building course at Oxford and getting involved in the JCR, the Junior Common Room, which is basically their student government,
Oh, okay.
she ended up thriving in finance.
Wow, that's a pretty amazing turnaround.
Right. Her experience totally illustrates the power of transferable skills. Like, the JCR taught her how to navigate complex group dynamics, make persuasive arguments, lead initiatives, all skills that directly translated to her success in a completely different field.
That's such a good point. It shows how experiences that might seem totally unrelated to your ultimate career path can actually be hugely beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. But it sounds like the benefits of a humanities education go way beyond just landing a good job.
Oh, absolutely. Many graduates in the Oxford report describe their humanities education as being, transformative.
In what way?
They talked about it shaping their values, their worldview, how they interact with others, how they live in the world, all those big questions.
So it's not just about getting a job. It's about becoming a more well-rounded, thoughtful individual.
Precisely. And that connects to a really important point in today's world where everything seems to be changing so rapidly.
Yeah, it can feel pretty overwhelming.
Driven by things like technology, globalization, political shifts, these qualities are more valuable than ever.
So in the midst of all that chaos, the humanities are like a grounding force.
Yes. They provide a framework for understanding and responding to those changes.
So how do they do that? How do the humanities equip us to deal with this constant state of flux?
So remember those transferable skills we were talking about?
Yeah, critical thinking, communication, empathy.
Right. Those are essential for navigating a world where information overload and rapid change are just like the norm.
It's like instead of getting swept away by the current, the humanities help us become skilled navigators.
Exactly. And it's not just about staying afloat, it's about charting our own course.
Taking control of the shift.
Yes. The Oxford report highlights how humanities graduates can challenge what they call groupthink. They can bring a more human-centered approach to problem solving, especially in fields like technology and business.
Okay, so we've got these insightful reports about humanities grads, but one of our sources takes a more personal approach. It's this video featuring David Dussall from Serious Science, where he talks about his experience working in the corporate energy sector.
This is one of those sources that I just know is going to give you some of those aha moments you love.
I love those. Hit me with it. What's the story?
Well, it's pretty unexpected. So when Dassault was hired, his boss didn't tell him to, crunch numbers or analyze energy trends or anything like that.
So what did they ask him to do?
His boss actually said his main job was to change the company's culture.
Whoa, okay. That's a pretty different task.
Right. He had to help the engineers who are used to, very linear technical thinking.
Yeah, they like things to be logical.
Exactly. He had to help them understand the needs and motivations of their customers.
So, like, the human element of it all.
Exactly. The why behind people's actions. And he argues that the humanities, with their focus on diverse perspectives and human relationships, can help bridge that gap between the technical and the human.
So in a way, he's saying that the humanities are essential for making sure that all this progress we're making actually benefits people.
Exactly. He even connects this idea to the challenges of, what do they call it, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is essentially this current wave of technological advancements like AI, automation, all that.
What are buzzwords?
Yeah, all the buzzwords. But his point is that while we can create almost anything technologically, figuring out how to use those advancements wisely, ethically, that's a whole other challenge.
It's like having all the ingredients for a delicious cake, but not knowing how to bake it. You might end up with a mess instead of a masterpiece.
Exactly. And Dassault sees humanities graduates who are also fluent in technology as key to bridging that gap. He uses this example of a cashless society and how the elderly, who might not be as comfortable with technology, could be left behind.
Oh yeah, that's a really important point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology and kind of forget about its potential impact on different groups of people.
And that's where the humanities come in. They help us to consider those unintended consequences to make sure that progress doesn't come at the expense of, human well-being.
So it's not about rejecting technology. It's about using it thoughtfully and ethically.
Precisely. And that requires understanding human behavior, motivations, and all the complex ways that technology can impact society.
Okay, so we've talked about the humanities helping us understand the human element in things like business and tech.
Right.
But we have to talk about the arts, right?
Yes, they're a vital part of this exploration of what it means to be human.
We've got this source, a TED Talk by Ben Cameron on the power of the performing arts. And he asks this really interesting question. In a world dominated by the internet, how can the magic of live theater, music, dance, how can it compete?
Yeah, because we can experience so much art online now.
Right, it's everywhere. Why bother going to a live performance?
Exactly. So what's his answer?
Yeah, what's Cameron's take?
Well, he argues that there's a unique and irreplaceable power in experiencing art live. It's about that energy exchange between performers and audience.
It's electric, isn't it?
It is. It's about that immediacy, the sense of community created when we gather to share art together.
It's about feeling the vibrations of the music, seeing the sweat on the dancer's brow, hearing the collective gasp of the audience. You can't get that through a screen.
Exactly. Live performance taps into this innate human desire for connection, for storytelling, for shared experiences.
Makes sense. We're social creatures at heart.
Right.
Another source, understanding literature. Criticism, context, and communication echoes this sentiment, but with a focus on the written word.
Oh, yeah. Literature, another core piece of the humanities puzzle.
Right, and they argue that literature offers us a window into the human condition.
Which is a theme we keep coming back to.
Exactly. And they're not just talking about classic novels or anything. They're talking about all forms of literature, from poetry to graphic novels, from ancient myths to, modern-day blog posts.
Oh, that's interesting. So, even those everyday forms of writing can offer insights into who we are.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about exploring the power of language to shape our thoughts, our feelings, and our understanding of the world.
And that power is immense.
Right. And they emphasize that literature is not static. It's constantly evolving as new voices and perspectives emerge.
Which is why it's so important to keep reading and engaging with new works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They even dive into key movements in literary criticism like Marxist, feminist, and post-structuralist critiques. It's pretty in-depth.
So they're encouraging us to go beyond just reading for pleasure and to
Mhm.
really engage critically with the text.
Exactly. They want us to ask questions like, who wrote this? Why? What are the underlying messages and assumptions? How does this text reflect or challenge societal norms? All those juicy questions.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, right?
Right. And to understand that even something as seemingly simple as a children's book can be packed with meaning and cultural context.
That's so true. We often underestimate the complexity of children's literature.
So before we go any further down this rabbit hole of knowledge, I want to take a moment to loop you, our listener, into the conversation. What stands out to you so far?
Yeah, we want to hear from you.
What new insights have you gained about the humanities?
This is one of my favorite parts, hearing what resonates with our listeners.
Because we're all on this journey of learning together.
Exactly.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the humanities.
Where we've been exploring not just what these fields are, but why they matter so deeply in a world that sometimes seems to forget.
It's like we're rediscovering this treasure trove of knowledge and insight and wisdom that's been right under our noses all along.
And it's not just about dusty old books and ivory towers. It's about understanding ourselves, our relationships, our place in the world, and how to navigate the complexities of human existence.
We've talked about how the humanities can help us develop critical thinking skills, empathy, and a sense of purpose.
And how they can empower us to be more effective communicators, more thoughtful leaders, and more engaged citizens.
You know, as we've been going through all these sources, I keep thinking about how the humanities aren't just about adding more facts to our brains.
Right, it's not just about memorizing dates or names.
It's about developing a whole different way of thinking and approaching the world right.
Exactly. And one of the key elements of this humanities mindset is the ability to hold multiple perspectives at once.
So instead of just seeing things as black and white, right or wrong, we can start to recognize the nuances and complexities of different viewpoints.
Precisely. And that's crucial in today's world, where we're constantly bombarded with information from all sides. The humanities teach us to question assumptions, to look for bias, and to consider the context in which information is presented.
It's like becoming a detective of sorts, sifting through clues and evidence to get to the truth.
And that kind of critical thinking is essential not just for navigating the news or social media, but for all aspects of our lives.
From our personal relationships to our professional decisions.
Exactly. It empowers us to make more informed choices, to have more meaningful conversations, and to be more effective problem solvers.
Now, one thing that really struck me in this Oxford report was the discussion of humanities grads in a post-truth world.
Ah, that's a really important point. We're living in a time where information is abundant, but the line between truth and falsehood can be blurry.
And the report argues that humanities graduates are uniquely equipped to deal with this challenge because of their training in critical thinking and analysis.
Exactly. They're able to evaluate sources, identify bias, and construct arguments based on evidence rather than emotion or rhetoric.
So it's not just about having strong opinions. It's about having the ability to back up those opinions with reasoned arguments and evidence.
Precisely, and that kind of thoughtful discourse is essential for a healthy democracy and a functioning society.
But beyond critical thinking, the humanities also cultivate another crucial skill, empathy.
Yes, empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others.
And how do the humanities help us develop this ability?
By exposing us to diverse perspectives and experiences through literature, history, philosophy, and the arts, we step into the shoes of others, we explore different worldviews, we confront ethical dilemmas.
So instead of just seeing the world through our own limited lens, we start to appreciate the complexities and challenges faced by others.
Exactly, and that understanding is fundamental to building bridges, resolving conflicts, and fostering a more just and compassionate world.
It makes me think of a quote from Professor G's lecture where he said that the humanities try to make sense of a world where suffering and joy, hope and despair are intertwined.
It's a beautiful sentiment, and it highlights the importance of empathy in navigating the messy realities of human existence.
Because even in our own lives, we experience a whole spectrum of emotions, right? Joy and sorrow, love and loss, hope and fear.
Absolutely, and the humanities help us understand that this range of human experience is universal.
It's a reminder that we're not alone in our struggles and triumphs.
Precisely, and that shared humanity is the foundation for building meaningful connections and fostering a more compassionate world.
Now, I know we've been talking a lot about the intellectual and emotional benefits of the humanities, but there's also a practical side to all of this, right?
Absolutely. The humanities are not just about abstract ideas and theories. They're about understanding the world around us and our place within it.
And that understanding can be incredibly empowering, especially in a world that's constantly changing and evolving.
The humanities provide us with the tools to analyze complex situations, to adapt to new challenges, and to make informed decisions that align with our values.
It's about becoming active agents in shaping our own destinies and the future of society.
Exactly, and that brings us back to the idea of the humanities as a source of purpose.
Because when we understand the complexities of the world and the challenges facing humanity, it naturally inspires us to want to make a difference.
Precisely. And the humanities provide us with the critical thinking skills, the empathy, and the historical context to make those contributions meaningful and impactful.
It's not just about blindly following trends or jumping on bandwagons. It's about approaching challenges with a nuanced understanding of the issues at stake.
And that kind of thoughtful engagement is essential for creating lasting positive change in the world.
Now, one thing that's become clear throughout this deep dive is that the humanities are not just about acquiring knowledge, but about developing wisdom.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Wisdom is about applying knowledge and understanding to live a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
It's about making choices that are aligned with our values, contributing to the greater good, and leaving the world a better place than we found it.
And the humanities provide us with the roadmap for that journey.
They offer us guidance, inspiration, and a framework for navigating the complexities of human existence.
You know, all this talk about wisdom and purpose reminds me of something Albert Einstein once said. He believed that humanity has every reason to place the proclaimer of high moral standards and values above the discoverers of objective truth.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful statement coming from a scientist who dedicated his life to unraveling the mysteries of the universe.
It is, and it speaks to the vital role that the humanities play in shaping a just and compassionate world. While science and technology can provide us with incredible tools and knowledge, it's the humanities that help us grapple with the ethical implications of that progress and ensure that it's used for the betterment of humanity.
So it's not about choosing between science and the humanities,
Yeah.
but recognizing their interconnectedness and valuing both approaches to understanding the world.
Exactly. We need both the rigor of scientific inquiry and the wisdom of the humanities to navigate the complexities of the 21st century.
It's like having two wings, one for logic and reason, the other for empathy and compassion. We need both to soar.
Beautifully said. And that balance is essential for creating a future that is not only innovative and technologically advanced, but also just equitable and meaningful for all.
Now, earlier we talked about how art plays a vital role in helping us explore those big existential questions about the human condition.
And you mentioned that art doesn't have to be intimidating or highbrow.
Right. It can be found in everyday life, from the music we listen to the stories we tell, to the beauty we find in nature.
It's about being open to those moments of inspiration and allowing ourselves to be moved by the creativity and expression of others.
And Dana Arnold, in her art history,
Yeah.
a very short introduction, encourages us to think critically about the way we experience art.
She argues that it's not just about passively observing a painting or listening to a piece of music.
It's about engaging with it, actively asking questions, and considering the context in which it was created.
She even talks about how the way art is presented in museums and galleries can influence our perception of it.
It's like the curators telling a story, using the art to convey a particular message or point of view.
Exactly, and being aware of that curatorial lens can enhance our understanding and appreciation of the art.
So it's about being both a participant and an observer in the world of art.
Precisely, and that active engagement is what makes the experience so enriching and transformative.
It allows us to connect with art on a personal level, to find meaning and inspiration in its various forms.
And ultimately, it helps us understand ourselves and the world around us in a deeper and more meaningful way.
You know, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this vast and fascinating world of the humanities.
There's always more to explore, but I think we've laid a solid foundation for understanding the value and relevance of these fields in today's world.
And I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to continue this journey of discovery on their own.
Because the humanities are not just a subject to be studied. They're a way of life, a way of being in the world.
It's about embracing curiosity, critical thinking, empathy, and a lifelong pursuit of knowledge and understanding.
And ultimately, it's about recognizing our shared humanity and striving to create a world that is more just compassionate and meaningful for all.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll take a short break, be back with the final part of our deep dive into the humanities. Welcome back to the deep dive.
where we've been wrestling with some pretty big questions about the humanities.
Right, like how do they fit into this world that's so focused on technology and progress and data?
Yeah, it can feel like there's this tension between, the hard sciences and the softer side of things.
Exactly, and I think this last batch of sources really digs into that tension.
Oh, absolutely. They get to the heart of what it means to be human in a world that's increasingly driven by algorithms and artificial intelligence.
And one of the things that keeps coming up is this idea that even our understanding of objective truth is shaped by our subjective experiences.
It's like those optical illusions where the same image can be seen in two completely different ways depending on your perspective.
Right, it's not just about the facts themselves, but about how we interpret those facts through the lens of our own values and beliefs and experiences.
And this takes me back to Professor G's lecture, where he talked about the inherent subjectivity of knowledge.
Yeah, he argued that there's no such thing as a purely objective viewpoint, because we all bring our own baggage to the table.
And he even brought up Albert Einstein to illustrate this point.
Oh yeah, Einstein the poster child for scientific objectivity.
Right, but even Einstein recognized the importance of human values and ethics.
He said that knowledge and skills alone cannot lead humanity to a happy and dignified life.
Powerful words. And he went on to say that humanity has every reason to place the proclaimer of high moral standards and values above the discoverers of objective truth.
It's like he's acknowledging that scientific progress without ethical guidance can lead us down a dangerous path.
Exactly. It's not enough to just unlock the secrets of the universe we have to grapple with the implications of those discoveries and ensure that they're used for good.
And that's where the humanities come in. They provide us with the tools to navigate those complex ethical dilemmas.
They help us ask the tough questions, like, what does it mean to live a good life? What are our responsibilities to others? How can we create a more just and equitable society?
And these aren't just hypothetical questions. They're becoming increasingly urgent in the face of rapid technological advancements.
Think about the development of artificial intelligence. We're creating machines that can think and learn, but who's responsible for instilling those machines with a sense of ethics?
That's a huge responsibility, and one that requires a deep understanding of human values and morality.
And the humanities can help us rise to that challenge by providing a framework for ethical decision-making in a rapidly changing world.
It's like we need a moral compass to guide us through these uncharted waters.
Precisely, and the humanities can help us chart that course.
So it's not about pitting science against the humanities, but recognizing their interdependence.
We need both the rigor of scientific inquiry and the wisdom of the humanities to create a future that's both innovative and ethical.
It's about finding that balance between progress and purpose.
And that brings us back to those fundamental questions we've been exploring throughout this deep dive. What does it mean to be human? What is our place in this vast and complex universe?
Questions that have captivated philosophers and artists and writers for centuries.
And they're just as relevant today as they were in the past.
Maybe even more so.
Because in a world that's increasingly driven by technology and data, it's easy to lose sight of our humanity.
To become cogs in a machine, rather than individuals with unique perspectives and experiences.
And the humanities remind us of what it means to be fully alive, to experience the world in all its richness and complexity.
To connect with others on a deeper level, to find meaning and purpose in our lives.
And to strive to leave the world a better place than we found it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the humanities, I want to leave our listeners with this thought.
I'm ready.
Don't underestimate the power of the intangible, the unquantifiable, the things that can't be measured or reduced to data points.
The beauty of a sunset, the power of a story, the depth of human connection.
These are the things that make life worth living.
Absolutely. And they're the things that the humanities help us appreciate and cultivate.
So go out there and find those moments of beauty and connection. Embrace your curiosity. Keep asking those big questions and never stop exploring what it means to be human.
Because the world needs more thoughtful, compassionate, and engaged individuals, and that's exactly what the humanities can help us become.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of the humanities.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive and that you'll continue to explore these fascinating fields on your own.
And remember, the journey doesn't end here. The world is full of wonder, and there's always something new to discover.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.